divisibility test. So there's some quick tricks or divisibility tests. That we can use to determine if a number can be divided by a smaller number. So this probably could have helped us a lot in the last video, knowing if it's prime or composite number, right? So divisibility test. So we're going to start with the number 2. It can be divided by 2 when the last digit is even. I hinted at this in the last video, where if it's an odd number, it can't be divided by 2. So this means when we have numbers that end in 0, 2, 4, 6, or 8, then it can be divided by 2. Now 3. It can be divided by 3 when the sum of the digits is divisible by 3. So an example would be 21. So if you were to look at 21, we go 2 plus 1, because we're adding up the digits of the number 21. So that's 3. Now 3 can be divided by 3, because that would just be 1. So that's a nice trick. Then 5, it can be divided by 5 when the last digit is a 0 or a 5. So anytime you end with a 0 or 5, it can be divided by 5. Now, for numbers 7, 11, 13, 17, 19, we're going to have to use our really fun trick of long division. So let's look at some examples. So example 1, you have 12 students in your preschool class. You want to plan some different activities where you could break the students into equal smaller groups. A way to help determine this is by seeing what 12 is divisible by which prime numbers. So let's go ahead and look at 2. Well, we notice that 12 ends in with the digit 2, which is even. So we would say it can be divided by 2. So we would just do a check mark. So that works out like that. So we just knew 12 ends in, it's like a fancy I. I meant to do something else there. 12 ends in 2, which is even. Now 3. 12, right, if we were to break that down, 1 plus 2, which is equal to 3. And if we go ahead and divide that by 3, we get 1. So because we get a whole number, this is divisible by 3. So this checks out. Let's go ahead and maybe do a red check mark. So 3, that works. Now 5. Now 12 does not end in a 0 or 5. So we would say no. Now, for 7, 11, and so on, right? If we go back, we looked at 7, 11, 13, 17, or 19. Well, if we go back, right, 7 and 11, well, 12 can't be divided by 7 because 7 times 2 is 14. So it would actually have to be a higher number for 7 to work out. And then you can't go 12 divided by 11 because that's not a whole number. So our two numbers that is divisible by for prime numbers would be 2 and 3. Now let's look at another example. Example 2. A preschool can be paid in quarterly installments over the year. So the cost is $2,730. So it's divisible by which prime numbers? So let's go ahead and look. Well, if we look at 2, we notice this ends in an even number. So we're going to go ahead and just check it off because we only have to do it. We know it ends with a 0, so it works out. Now 3. For 3, we're going to have to add up all the digits. So we're looking at these digits. So that becomes 2 plus 7 plus 3 plus 0. So that's equal to 12. Can we divide that by 3? And the fact is, we can't, because 12 divided by 3 is equal to 4. So it's a whole number. So this works out. So that works out really well. Now 5. We notice that it ends in a 0. So yes. So this also checks out. Now, for moving on, for 7, say 11, 13, and 17, we're going to have to use long division. So let's go ahead and look at this. So, actually, I'm going to get rid of those, but we'll come back to it. So 7 can go into 27 how many times? Well, 7 times 3 is 21. We go ahead and subtract, we get 6. We're going to go ahead and bring down the 3. Now 7 can go into 63 how many times? Well, 7 times 10 is 70. We go ahead and subtract 7 from that, which would give us 7 times 9, which would be 63. So that works out nicely. So 7 times 9 is 63. We get 0, bring down the other 0. Well, 7 can go into 0 anytime, so that just be 0. So we end up with 390. So we can also say check mark to 7 that it works out. Now let's go to 11. 7 can go into 11 can go into this number. Let's see. Well, 11 can go into 27 how many times? 2 times, because 11 times 2 is 22. We go ahead and subtract. We get 5. Now we have to go ahead and bring down the 3. Now 11 can go into 53 4 times, because that's 44. We go ahead and subtract. So we get 9. Then we go ahead and bring down the 0, and 11 can't go into 90 evenly, so this doesn't work out. So let's go ahead and look at the next number. How about 13? Well, 13 can go into, just say 27 2 times, because that's 26. We go ahead and subtract, we get 1. Bring down the 3. 13 go into 13 how many times? Well, it can go into perfectly 1 time. So 13 times 1 is 13. That's 0. We're going to go ahead and bring down the other 0. Now 13 can't go into 0, so it's just 0. So 13, let's go ahead and say 13 check mark. Now let's go ahead and look at 17. Well, 17 can go into 27 1 time. So we get 10. We're going to go ahead and now bring down the 3. Now, 17 can go into 103 how many times? Let's go ahead and say 6 times. We're going to go like this. 17 times 6. 7 times 6 is 42. So carry that 4, and that's 102. Because 1 times 6 is 6, plus 4 is 10. So if we do this 6 times, we get 102, we get 1. Go ahead and bring down the 0. That's not going to work out. So if we were to look, what are the numbers we can use? 2, 3, 5, 7, not 11, but we can use 13.